Tales from the Jails, folks, with John G. Sutton. Yeah, thanks for buying my book, by the way. HMP Manchester Prison Officer. It's there on Amazon. You'll love it. Seriously. Especially the new audio book, which is very, very good, produced by... the actor is Alan Turton. Yeah, does a really good job with that. You'll love it. Right, okay. Now, about the collapse of the prison system. So you've seen the news lately. They're posting this directions to the judiciary, the judges, that they've got to be very cautious about sending people to prison because the prisons are overcrowded. Currently, the prison system, I believe it holds about 89,000, when it's actually got a full capacity of 87,000. So they're telling the judges, do not send people to prison unless you absolutely have to. Also, the Tory government are considering something that I suggested about 6 months ago, that they look at people who are in the last 3 months of their sentence and commute that, into community service or into time spent, and release everybody with less than 3 months to do into the community, and they'll clear up 5,000 places there. And they're not doing any good in the prisons anyway, because there's no rehabilitation. I mean, the idea is to rehabilitate, and to prevent people from re-offending. Well, the recidivists, 80% in the 1970s, 1980s when I worked there. I believe it's down to about 50-60% now. But that's still a massive amount of people who are coming out of prison who are only going straight back to their criminality. And where does that leave us all? Picking up the pieces. I mean, the justice system has to pay for all this. And the people in prison are not producing anything. And it's costing, what is it costing, £1,000 a week to keep somebody in somewhere like Wormwood Scrubs? The place is falling down. There has to be a better answer than sticking people 3 to a cell and locking the door for 23 hours. Come on, this is the 21st century. You've supposedly got intelligent people there in your psychological think tank. What are they doing? What they're coming up with? All they're coming up with is telling the judges, don't send people to prison unless you absolutely have to. So, and the police are not even attending on minor offences. Now, we're talking minor offences like shoplifting. People going into shops, filling up their trolleys full of goods like booze and walking off. And listen, I'll tell you something. The security staff are told their orders are specific. Do not lay your hands on them. Don't do that. Just say to them, would you mind going back in and paying for your goods? And if they ignore you and walk off, do nothing. And if you ring the police won't come. Shoplifting, we haven't got any officers. We haven't got anything to spare for that. We can't do it. It's less than £500. Just write it off. The problem is, people will get the idea about that. Soon nobody will be paying for the goods, just walking in, loading up and buggering off. But it isn't the standard practice for Brits to do that. But unfortunately, it isn't the indigenous population that's doing that now. You don't have to be racist to see that this is wrong. You don't have to be racist to see that if this continues, then there is going to be a collapse of the good order in society. And society runs specifically on the people allowing it and following basic rules and regulations. That is why we're having a crackdown on everything. Everything's being screwed down. And it ain't just being screwed down for the people who are likely to offend. It's every one of us is suffering this. They're bringing in this nonsense now all across Wales on, I think it's the 7th of September, 20 mile an hour speed limits. have they really thought this through? Because I'll tell you what's going to happen. If that pertains, there's going to be no people visiting Wales. The tourist industry in Wales is going to collapse. People won't go. Have you tried driving a car at 20 miles an hour? I mean, I'm fortunate really. I've got a relatively new electric vehicle that's got one of these digital displays. Great big white letters in a black, and it shows me, I'm doing 18 miles an hour, 19 miles an hour, very clearly. I've also got, my wife's got an older convertible Micra, and it's just got a white screen with the standard flickering switch, the flickering arrow. Well, when you look at that on a bright summer's day, you try telling the difference between 30 miles an hour and 35 miles an hour. You can't see it. But these days you're getting prosecuted for doing 34. And you could very well be trying to do 30 miles an hour. And how are you going to manage at 20 miles an hour? Yeah. My electric vehicle at 20 miles an hour, all you've got to do is cough, put your foot down, and you're doing 60. It is incredibly fast. It's faster. I had an E-Type Jag for the 70s, and 7 or 8 years I ran an E-Type Jag. That was fast, but it's not as fast as this. This electric vehicle is electrifying. Very fast, yeah. So what's happening in the courts is the judges have been told specifically by the government, do not imprison people unless you absolutely have to, because the prisons are full to overcrowded. So they can't, nowhere spaces for them in. When I was in the prison service joined in 1975, the prison population was 36,000, I believe. And it was full. It was full then. The Scrubs was full. C2 landing at Wormwood Scrubs. Over 200 inmates on one landing. 5 staff, that was it. I mean, there are prisons where you don't have 200 inmates. But we had 200 inmates on one landing at Wormwood Scrubs in 1975. But we managed it because people in those days, the inmates, recognised a direct order. Time has passed, and the inmates nowadays, they don't care. Give them direct orders, they won't do it. You get some 18-year-old girl giving a direct order, that's a laugh, isn't it? Yeah. I can tell you the system is failing. That's today's broadcast. It's time now for me to torture you. They could get sentenced to that, couldn't they? We find you guilty as charged, and you will be required to listen to 25 songs by John G. Sutton, one after the other. And if you survive, you will then be taken to a place nominated by this court and locked into a cell indefinitely with John G. Sutton playing full flat out on the loudspeakers. Here we go. This is by Chris Christopherson. Yeah, help me make it through the night. Yeah, help me make it through the night, all right. Yeah, in strange ways. Take the ribbons from your hair, shake it loose and let it fall. Lay it soft upon my skin, like the shadows on the wall. Come and lay down by my side till the early morning light. All I'm taking is your time. Come on, help me make it through the night. No, I don't care who's right or wrong, and I can't try to understand. Let the devil take tomorrow. Lord, tonight I need a friend. Yesterday is dead and gone, and tomorrow's out of sight. It's so sad to be alone. Oh, help me make it through the night. Well, I think we've had enough of that. We didn't make it, eh? Jumped off the shelf. Tales from the Jails, folks. Don't forget to buy my book. It's there on Amazon. See you now.